All right, with our icon basically finished, I can go ahead and start thinking about how to export this for an iOS app. So the folks at Django made this template for us, which I'm going to use in this sense to get all of our sizes down. We don't necessarily need to use this because Affinity Designer lends us a hand at exporting these assets at the sizes we want. This one's just kind of there for guidelines for the sake of sizes and icon areas. I'll show you in this video how I'm going to approach exporting the assets. We can go ahead and head to the export persona at this point. And I'm going to actually go back real quick. I'll rename this whole layer our icon. There we go. And save that down. And then we'll go to export persona. And the nice thing about making this a slice, we can go ahead and create a slice on our layers panel. And like I was just saying, the nice thing about this is Affinity Designer comes stock with a batch builder preset. So in that sense, we can go ahead and assign this Xcode JSON app for like an iOS application. So the way I want to do this is to go through the export preset mode first, and there's actually a set of those presets here. And the one I want to target is the iOS 7 through 9. Currently there isn't one for 10, but I'm almost certain it's going to be coming. If you're using the latest version of Affinity Designer 1.6, I believe at this stage, you should see these same presets. If not, you might see just one that's iOS 5 through 9 or something similar. But you can use these icon parts as stubbed out versions of the same thing. But essentially these are presets, as I'll show you here, that you can use to create these exported assets in the sizes you see here. So we have 29p, 29p at 2x, 29p at 3x, and it goes on from there. So this saves so much time if you're trying to render these all at once, because if you had to create these slices and actual icon sizes yourself, it would probably drive you nuts. So I'm using this as the slice name, so you can go ahead and customize this if you really want to change it any specific way. So ours will be the slice name. In our case, it's going to be called icon, since that's the name of the slice here. And then it'll be .icon app set. So you can use all of these for the sake of exporting. And then we have our iOS application icon preset here in the builder. So we want the iOS version and not the OS X or Apple Universal, because the iOS pertains to the specific phone in this case instead of an application on a Mac. So we'll go ahead and export all of these just by clicking this arrow icon here. And I'll probably go to the N folder just to have an exported folder of these. So I'll just title that export and hit export and see what happens. With any luck, we should be able to see all of our icons exported in this app set, and it has a JSON file, which will be handy when you come to give this to a developer who's using your icon. But as you can see here, all the icon sizes are there, all their retina qualities. So we have at 3x for certain sizes, all these standard sizes that you need to basically define an app in the App Store that Apple will pretty much critique you hard about. So you want to make sure you get all these in, working order, and we can see the names that kind of describe, like this one's for the iPad at 72, at 76. We have the iPad Pro, which is at 83.5. iPad Spotlight, which is important, just specific apps when you're in the spotlight mode on the phone. That's kind of just something to have in place. And the settings view, all of that. So all of that's here. It's built into Affinity Designer. It's a great way to really make sure you have the foundational icon sizes in place. If you want to export as a different file type, you can. Commonly, you can export as PDF just for more scalable graphics, but it's not necessarily a requirement, but it's something to think about. So again, if you just go into your layers, you create a slice for that file we just did. Make sure it's 1024 by 1024. Designer at this point has a little quirk that adds a pixel. Go ahead and change that in the transform palette down here. And then you can head to your slices parameter, and within that, select the batch builder. I just use the OS X application one. You can use any of these. You can also go into a preset which automatically selects that for you. So in this case, I did the iOS application icon of 7 through 9 and just went hit the down arrow there and then hit the export icon here. That exports all of these completely. If you want to export just one of these, you can do so, but you can also add an additional export sizes as you want. Say we want it at the current state, so you can go ahead and change that to 1x. So it'll come out at 1024 by 1024. And the nice thing about the file names here is you can add specific variables to the naming conventions. So here it's got the slice name, which would be icon, and then the suffix would be PNG, or the scale of it. If I had 1x, it won't have it because that's just 1 up. But if I had 2x, it would say 2x there. But you can use your own variables if you want to add your own there. I like to do commonly a width just to have that in place, and you can drag and drop these to show, and then it should update in this palette here when we export it. So if I add the width, and in fact I'll probably just do slice name, scale, suffix. That should be fine. So let's try that one and see if it does what we're looking for here. I'll just export it to that folder again, go back to my desktop, look and see if it's in that. We got icon. So it's got the name. It doesn't necessarily have the 12 by 10 by 24 width we were after, but I'm curious why that didn't work actually. I wonder if it'll update if I delete these. If you delete these, you can click and delete. And it looks like it just doesn't work for that. That's interesting. I think it's because of the preset, so that's something to take into account. So we'll just have the slice name for now then. But anyway, if you were to add your own custom export of this, you can go ahead and define it that way and use variables to set up all of these things in the parameter mode. So here it's kind of just showing all those things that are going on in the file name. It gets a little confusing here. Maybe I'll do a few videos on how to actually really make this scalable in the sense of you exporting assets. But it's definitely geared around this kind of style of design. So anything to do with icons or icon libraries, you can definitely see the use case here when you're exporting your own assets. I think that about wraps up this course. I hope you enjoyed it. This was just a foundational course in the sense of getting used to designing for an icon for an iOS application. Maybe we'll create more in the very near future, but this one is just a quick guide into using Affinity Designer and accomplishing some very modern design techniques. And I thank you for watching.